Hi everyone. All right, so this is going to be incredibly amateur because I don't do this very often. But here we go. So, yesterday, congratulations, you are now the managers of a furniture chain. And we talked about the two different types of furnitures, but I switched it up for first period and I didn't switch it for zero. So, I'm going to switch it for everybody. Notice for the chair, we've got two small components. Sorry, three, because there's one at the base and then one large. Well, for the table, I'm going to switch it up. I now want you to have two small components on the base and one large. Okay, so it's two small components on the base and then one large. All right, so here we go. I'm going to write that down so we don't forget. So our chair that we had three small and one large. And then the table is what we're changing. So the table is going to have two small and two large. Okay, so that being said, if we get 1,200 small components and 800 large each day from our manufacturer, that means that for the small, we need 3 for the chair and 2 for the table. Okay, so that's switching a little bit from today. And then for the large, sorry, from yesterday, for the large, we need 2, oh, just kidding. We need 1 for the chair, and then we need 2 for the table. Okay, then we also talked about how we need to define our variables, and that's super important. So X was the number of chairs, and Y was the number of tables, because that's how we're trying to figure out how to maximize our profit. So from there, we made our profit equation. It's super important to note this actually has a name. So when we're talking about this process, your profit equation is called the objective function. Okay, some people call it the profit equation. It's also called the objective function. You guys need to know that for this class. Okay, the objective function. All right, so from here we need to create our constraints. Now we talked about this yesterday, and we actually made a few of them, but they're going to change a little bit for zero period. Okay, so if X is the number of chairs, then that means 3 small components plus 2 per table has to be less than or equal to 1,200. We talked about how it can go to 1,200, but we can't go over because that's how many we get a day. And then we have 1 large plus 2 large, and that has to be less than or equal to 800. Then we also talked about 2 additional constraints. Those were called our common sense constraints, and that just means that it has to be greater than or equal to 0 because we can't have negative pieces. Okay, so all 4 of these inequalities are our constraints, and then these 2 were called the common sense, simply because they make common sense. We can't have negative pieces. Okay, we talked about yesterday also how when we graph an inequality, you have to watch out for 2 separate things. You have to watch out for, number 1, is it solid or dashed? Is the line solid or dashed? Well, all 4 of these, since they have the equal to, are going to be solid. And then we have to figure out where we're going to shade them. All right, I'm going to do them by colors so it's a little bit easier to see. The first constraint is going to be in pink, and then we've got one in green, and then the 2 common sense ones are going to be in blue and in purple. All right, well, the blue and the pink and the, what is that, green? The pink and the green, we're going to need to rewrite into slope-intercept form. So for the pink, I have 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 1,200. Well, I'm going to change that to be 2y is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 1,200. Divide both sides by 2. Make sure you divide everything by 2. That leaves us with y is less than or equal to negative 3 halves x plus 600. Okay, so now we're in slope-intercept form for that one. For the other constraint that I'm going to graph in green, we need to switch as well. So I'm going to subtract x to both sides. That leaves me with 2y is less than or equal to negative x plus 800. Divide every single thing by 2. And that leaves you with y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 400. Okay, now we've got everything that we need to graph in slope-intercept form. Big thing, when you draw your graph, keep in mind, I have to hit 600, I have to hit 400. All right, plot your axes with me as we go. I'm a little bit strapped for space here, so we'll see how this works out. Okay, and while I graph this, I'm going to go ahead and hit pause so that you guys can graph as well, and then I will meet up with you as soon as we're done.